Welcome to another episode of Bread and Bars Podcast. I'm your host, Sean. We're here on Bread and Bars where truth rise, ego subsides, and souls are getting fed with every episode. Welcome to episode 10. As usual, I'm super excited to come to you guys today. Thanks everybody for watching. Today's episode is going to be later than usual because I got some traveling going on. I got birthdays going on, so a lot going on. So today's episode is going to be a little late, but it's not going to take away from its impactfulness. Do y'all remember this song? That's right, y'all remember O.P.P, right? Everybody was down with O.P.P. They shouldn't have been, but most people was down with O.P.P. And this is something that, we grew up with early 90s, I think it was, teenagers. I remember when the song came out in Jersey, they had these stickers where they advertised everywhere. I mean, these stickers were everywhere. Anywhere you go in Jersey, especially the East Orange or Newark area, you would see stickers on mailboxes, on buildings, on stop signs, on street signs. You would see these signs everywhere talking about being down with O.P.P. Now, if you know, you know, but for those that don't know, O.P.P stood for other people's property or other people's private parts. I'm not going to get into the whole explanation of it. Look it up yourself if you want to know more about it. But yeah, everybody was down with O.P.P. And that's what the title of this episode is, O.P.P. But it's not that same O.P.P that you're used to. It's a different O.P.P. This O.P.P is dealing with, are you operating out of your pain or out of your power? Let me say that again. Are you operating out of your pain or out of your power? Are your relationships, are your conversations, or how you interact with people on a daily basis, is it based on your pain or is it based on your power? Is it based on your past trauma, things that have been done to you that you didn't have any control over, but yet it still has an effect on you? Or is it based on the better version of yourself or your higher self, what you aspire to be? Yes, you can actually walk in the inspired version of yourself, even though you haven't made it there yet. We spoke in previous episodes about you feeling a thing before it actually comes into fruition. So that's what we're going to talk about today. How are you operating? Are you operating in pain from your past trauma, which means this thing has already happened to you in the past, but yet you're still operating as if that thing is happening to you today. You're replaying this over in your head over and over again, right? Versus you replaying in your head the version of your higher self that you aspire to be. Now, the reason why I'm talking about this today is because I had to face me dealing with my own pain and or higher self. So that's what we're going to get into today in detail. So first P in how you're operating, the pain. Are you operating from pain? When you're operating from pain, you're operating based on triggers. You're operating almost on autopilot, which means you've done the same thing every day. You have the same feelings every day. You know, when you go into work or you go to school or wherever you go on a daily basis, somebody asks you, hey, how you doing? You say same day, different shit, right? Or, same old, nothing different here, right? So you're continuing to work on autopilot because it's comfortable for you. I get it. You don't necessarily want to push yourself to change on a daily basis because it's hard to do. I'll admit that, right? So you'll say same old, right? Another sign of it is you find yourself staying in situations that you don't belong in, whether it be toxic relationships, whether it be toxic work environments. When I say toxic relationships, I'm not just talking about with your man or with your woman, your husband or your wife. I'm talking about with coworkers. I'm talking about with friends. I'm talking about with blood family members. Staying around in those toxic relationships is only a reflection of you operating from a source of pain, because you're on autopilot. So all you're going to do is what you've always done, and you're not going to do anything different because you're going to hold on to that idea of, oh, well, this is who I am. Who you are is so malleable and it changes so much, because when we're babies, when we're toddlers, we are a certain person. Something happened that allowed us to change as we became adults. Right? When we were younger, we were more imaginative. We had a lot more energy. We had much more desire to hang out with people. things like that. But we grew up, we matured, and we became something all or somebody altogether different, right? Um, I'm actually going back to my hometown, going back to Jersey, very soon, and I'm excited about going. But then when I think about seeing people that I haven't seen in a very long time, well, a lot of people that I knew back then no longer lives there. But even if I was to see somebody that I haven't seen, I haven't been there in almost 30 years, and I haven't seen them in probably even longer, or been around them to know who they really are. So they're completely different people now. We were teenagers, right? Some of us, we were kids, right? So I don't expect to know who these people are. They're not the same, right? But imagine if I went there and I operated as if nothing's changed, right? Because I'm on autopilot. Another way of looking at things is you overcompensate in your career. You, at all costs, you avoid vulnerability. At no point will you ever need to be vulnerable, because ain't nobody about to punk me. Ain't nobody about to make me feel ashamed about who I am, right? So you avoid vulnerability at all costs, once again, because you're operating from a place of pain. You're automatically going to assume when you walk into a situation that this is going to hurt me the same way that this has hurt me in the past, right? So those are some of the things that identifies operating from a place of pain. Unchecked pain becomes your operating system. If you know about computers, I'll give you, if you know, you know, if you don't, I'll give you a brief run through. A computer has an entire system, whether it be Windows or whether it be iOS or even our phones have an operating system in which it operates on, right? So do we as people. We have an operating system. And what happens is our ego, or basically any unchecked pains or any unhealed wounds that we have, becomes our operating system. Operating systems are destroyed whenever there's a virus involved, right? Virus, something unhealed or unchecked, and it alters the way that that operating system performs. It alters it in a way that's not beneficial for the user at the time. Of course, you are the user of your operating system. Your life is that whole system, right? So whenever you have unchecked pain, or whenever you allow your ego to step into place, your ego actually fuels itself off of this pain. Because what the ego does, the ego says this: I've created this persona of who we are, and I don't want to let it go, because that means I'm going to have to create another persona, and I don't want to have to do that. Is it possible? Absolutely, right? With consistency and work, is definitely possible. But the ego doesn't necessarily want to do it, because the ego is tied to, this is who I am, right? Doesn't matter if that who I am serves you or if it doesn't serve you. If this who I am is somebody that's broken, somebody that's broke, somebody that's easily triggered, why would you want to hold on to something like that, right? And that's where it hit me, because I'm thinking about relationships that I've had in the past, or that I have that I currently have, and I'm thinking, am I really operating in a place where how I present myself in this relationship, whether it be my job, whether it be with my children, whether it be with my spouse or whoever it is, am I operating from a place of my higher self, right? As I said to you before, I'm currently on a spiritual journey, as we pretty much all are, on a spiritual journey where I'm trying to be the best version of myself possible. I'm understanding, or I'm learning to remember who my higher self is. I say remember because we started off in this world as a higher being, as a higher self, but over a period of time we tend to forget that. So I'm on a journey now where I'm remembering who I am. Now, by me doing that, I have to transcend my ego. My ego has to subside. It's not going to die. You can't kill your ego. But your ego subsides where you're no longer a victim of it. You're no longer a um, a slave to its urges or its desires. You have much more control over your ego. Now your ego doesn't like that, because your ego is an ego, right? It wants to do what it wants to do. It wants to continue in the path that it established on its own, right? Based on hiding, the versions of you that aren't necessarily favorable or impressive, right? That's what your ego does. Your ego creates this bright light of who you are so that everyone likes you, everyone accepts you, everyone thinks you're just this amazing person, right? And no matter what walk of life you're in, whether you're in the church or whether you're outside of the church, whatever it is that you're into, your ego presents this light as this is who you are. But what happens is the more of a light that it creates, the more of a shadow that it creates, right? Because it tries to get rid of that vulnerable version of ourselves that we try to avoid at all costs, right? Because we're operating from a place of pain. Now we're going to define what it means to operate from a place of power, right? And I'm going to start with a quote that I believe is from Rumi. It says, the wound, not womb, but the wound is a place where light enters your body. Let me say that again. A wound is a place where light enters your body. Now, when you're operating from a place of power, you're operating from a place of authenticity. Now, that is the highest vibration that you can have because it's not based on performance. It's not based on being perfect at everything. It's not based on other people's perception of you. It's based on you being your true self as is, regardless of what has happened to you in the past, regardless of the wounds that you had, regardless of mistakes that you've made in your past. You're operating in a place of acceptance of who you truly are. One key way that power shows up in your life and how you know it, well, actually, a few ways, is that you choose peace over proving a point. You rather let somebody have it when you find yourself going back and forth, whether that person is wrong and you know you're dead right. You rather choose peace than trying to prove your point, because going back and forth is like an analogy that I love to hear when when a person is arguing with an idiot from the distance. Nobody can tell the difference between the two. Another way is you set boundaries without guilt. You can set boundaries and you can say no without being facetious, without being nasty. You can say no to anybody or anything if it doesn't align with something that you're comfortable with. And you don't have to feel any guilt about it because, again, you're not a perfect person. You're not here just to serve other people. Yes, you should, but you're not here just for that. Primarily, you have to take care of yourself. You know, when you're on the flight, they tell you that you have to first put the mask on yourself before you can help somebody else. So one way that healing shows up, and know that you're operating from a place of power, is you can set boundaries or you can say no to somebody without feeling guilty. Another very important way is you start to have alignment relationships. Alignment relationships are what I like to call mutually beneficial relationships. These are relationships that aren't one-sided. It's not just you giving, 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 or taking, 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 taking. There's a high level of reciprocity in that relationship, whether it be, again, with your spouse, whether it be with your coworkers, whether it be with your job or your trade, right? Whether it be with your children, your parents, your siblings, whoever it is, that relationship is aligned with your higher self. And you know that because it's mutually beneficial. Let me tell you this, could be a relationship with your church, right? Or any organization that you're a part of. If you find yourself in a place where you're giving and nothing is being reciprocated, that's not an aligned relationship. Or if you find yourself in a relationship, right, if we're being honest, or fall on the sword, if you will, if we find ourselves getting, taking, 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 and we're not giving back to that relationship adequately, then that's not an aligned relationship. So that's the way that power shows up in your life, where you know that you're operating in power, right? Back in my day, they used to have this saying where there was a difference. Well, they probably still have it now, but there's a difference between people who are rapping and people who are spitting hip hop, right? Rapping people, you're just rhyming words, right? Almost anybody can do that. You get a Dr. Seuss book, you can do that. But hip hop, when somebody's really spitting bars, they're sharing wisdom. They're changing people's lives, right? I don't know if I said this before, but Tupac is my favorite rap artist. It's not necessarily because he's the best lyricist out there. He's my favorite because when he spoke from a place of passion. Whether it be in a song, whether it be in an interview, or even in a movie, he was a great actor. Actually, I think he probably was a better actor than he was a rapper. But one of the things that made him so impactful, why he is one of the greats, there's this thing going around now. Everybody's doing Mount Rushmore of this and Mount Rushmore of that. He is one on most people's Mount Rushmore of hip hop. Again, it's not because he's the best lyricist. Honestly, I think Black Thought is the best lyricist. Argue with me if you want to, but I think he's the best lyricist. However, Tupac is the best hip hop artist to me because when he spit with so much power and so much passion, right? Even though he had a lot of pains, he actually put a lot of that aside, and he even brought it up in a lot of his songs, his pain and his trauma that he'd gone through. But when that beat is going, or when that camera's rolling, whatever the case may be, call it a performance. But he's been pretty much authentic throughout the entire thing, so he was perfectly flawed. So that's the difference between operating in your pain versus operating in your power. Either way, you can still operate, right? If we talk about a phone that has a virus or a phone that isn't acting right for whatever the reason is, there's some parts of that phone or that computer or that tablet, whatever it is that you have, that can operate, whether it be a car or any machine that has an operating system, right? Even if that operating system is flawed, it can operate, but it's not operating in its optimum level. Y'all know I love quotes, right? And one of my favorite quotes is, if I let go of what I am, I give myself access to what I might be. When I let go of that grip of who I am today, right? I am Sean. I am 6'5". I am 250 pounds. I love basketball. I this, I that. I like this. I love that. That's just who I am today. Now, 10 years ago, I was still 6'5", but I wasn't 250, right? Today, I'm a podcast host. 10 years ago, I wasn't. Now, what if I said 10 years ago, I am a graphic designer? I think, was I still doing graphic design? Yeah, I was doing graphic design 10 years ago. If that's who I was, which I enjoyed it, I definitely enjoyed it. But that's not something that I do as much or really anymore. So I didn't have the opportunity as a graphic designer to be who I am now. Letting go of who you are so that you can have access to you who you might be is so impactful, because imagine if 10 years ago I said that my name is Sean, I am a graphic designer, I work at SBA Communications, and I enjoy eating sweets. Jelly beans are my favorite, whatever the case may be, right? If I held on to that idea of who I am, if any one of those things changed due to something outside of my control, where does that put me? I now make myself depressed because I'm so held on, or my ego, or I'm aligned with my ego, and we're so held on to this is who we are, that when an opportunity for something better, something that more aligns with my higher self comes along, I can't access it. I don't have access to it anymore, right? So it's important that we really let go, right? In the previous episode, we talked about letting go and detaching from outcomes. The reason why is because God has his whole thing designed and perfectly aligned how it should be. We just have to get in line with with it the best way we know how. So I got a challenge for you guys, right? This is a homework assignment, if you will. I want you to sit some time and think about patterns that you have, whether they be good or bad, right? You might have a pattern of waking up in the morning, putting your face in some cold, expensive water, and doing a 5-mile run, whatever the case may be. Whether it's a good pattern or bad pattern, I want you to find or identify patterns that you follow every day, right? That you're almost on autopilot on, whether it be, your morning routine, brushing your teeth, or your nighttime routine, right? And I want you to don't nothing too drastic. I want you to change it up just a little bit, right? For example, if you brush your teeth and rinse your mouth with mouthwash and then you do your hair, do the opposite. Or find a routine that aligns with who you want to be, whether it be something as simple as your morning routine, like making up your bed in the morning, or a night routine where you read 10 pages of a book, or you listen to 20 minutes of an audiobook or motivation throughout the day. Or when you go to work, try, starting 5 minutes earlier and try not to, um, get lazy, right? On the weekends, let me tell you, this is me. On the weekends, on Saturdays, for some reason, I get so lazy. I mean, I just sat there like I don't want to do anything. I'm on my phone all day. As much as I want to do chores or whatever it is I have to do, I just sit there all day long, just scrolling through my phone. That is one of my worst programs that I repeat on a daily basis, right? So I'm going to challenge you the same way I'm going to challenge myself. Try to change up some of those patterns that you have. First, identify them, identify what they are, identify what those patterns are, and find out if they either align with your pain or if they align with autopilot, right? So it's either pain is down here or just autopilot where you're just in the same spot the whole time. You're not moving, you're not doing nothing different. So anything below this is from a place of pain or trauma. Anything above this is aligning with your higher self. So I want you to first identify the patterns that you have and see where do they land. Are they towards your aspired self? Are they on autopilot? Are they from a place of pain? Or are they restraining you because you don't want to step into certain conversations or situations because of trauma? Hmm. I have a German Shepherd Husky, and I would put him on camera, but he doesn't like to be on camera. He was standing here and he would just look away, even though you put the camera right in his face, he won't look. Um, but one of the things that I've experienced in having him is whenever I see people that don't have dogs, they'll run away. They'll get so scared of just seeing him. Right? He has never bitten anybody outside of the house. He's never hurt anybody outside of the house. However, people who fear him based on the fact that they've had an experience possibly with a dog that looks nothing like him. By the way, he's a white dog with brown stripes. He's so adorable, right? He doesn't look. I'm not gonna say he doesn't look vicious, but he doesn't act vicious. I can't even say that. He's mostly harmless. Um, so what happens is people are afraid of him because of their past pains. But those that aren't afraid of him, because either they have dogs or they don't have that past pain, they'll walk up to me and they'll ask if they can pet him, if he bite. When he was younger, I would say, "Oh yeah, sure, you can bite him," but now, I mean, you can pet him, but now I don't say anything because I honestly don't know if he will bite you or not. I don't know, right? He bit me. He bit my. Let me see. Let me see if I can. Here he is. Got him. Say welcome, friend. Say hello to everybody. See, he doesn't really look vicious, but he can be. Say hi, friend. Oh, he's actually giving y'all eye contact. He must like y'all. I'm gonna let you go. That's enough for you, sir. Um, but yeah, people are afraid of him because of their trauma. That's not just true with dogs, but that's with anything that's questionable, something that we don't know. You know how people fear the things that they don't understand. So I want you to identify certain patterns that you have, categorize where they are, try to tweak, change, or eliminate patterns that are on autopilot if they're not benefiting you, or the ones that are from a place of trauma or pain, right? That could mean identify certain addictions that you have, right? Like my addiction on Saturday for some reason is to scroll. I mean, I want to read audio books. I want to go outside and work out. I want to get my house clean. I want to do all these things. But what happens is that that pattern of Saturday saying, "Oh, I worked all week. I'm tired." Am I actually that tired where I can't read a book? No. Am I that tired where I can't do my chores? No. Or work out? No. But what happens is I told myself that this is my pattern, this is my program, and that's what I'm going to. So I'm going to challenge you to identify these patterns that you have and see what we can do to tweak them so that they become patterns that benefit you or that are aligned with your higher self. All right, guys, that's it for me today. Thanks again for watching another episode of Bread and Bars Podcast. We are at episode 10. Awesome. Thank you guys for sticking with me, for rocking with me this whole time. If something in this video sparked interest for you or it hit a nerve, share it with somebody, right? Like it, comment it, subscribe to our channel. That's how you get notifications whenever a new episode come out, or like this one was late. It's usually Tuesday mornings. I look forward to, but this one was a little bit later. But again, I'm traveling. I might actually post some of my travel videos so you guys can see how that went. I want to keep a record of it too, so keep an eye out for that. Until the next time we meet, thank you for watching the Bread and Bars Podcast. Once again, I'm your host, Sean. Be blessed, guys.